It's evident from statistics and just from looking around that fewer and fewer young people seem to be going to church. Few of them identify as faith-filled or Christian, and states like Colorado, where I lived, and Oregon here certainly are often considered unchurched states. A lot of people, especially in the younger generations, not continuing perhaps the faith and the traditions of their parents. And increasingly, I see whenever there's a comment or article about faith on social media, the comments come back and say things like, well, those people who believe in the magic giant in the sky, the genie who solves all their problems. Derisive comments about people who believe in God. 10,000-year-old fairy tale I once saw written down. Sort of a magical boogeyman to scare you and make you behave. This derisive, making fun of people of faith who believe in a God. And they style themselves atheist, or they just see themselves as humanists and non-Christians, and that's fine from their perspective. They don't connect with the traditions and the practices of their families and friends, and they seem to be, in their minds, beyond that kind of superstition, that they think people who still believe in God are some sort of Pollyannish, self-deluded people, because in their mind the world is as it is, and there is no God, or nothing's beyond what we see, touch, feel, or experience. But at the same time, I find it hard to believe that they're not people of some faith. Certainly there are people of good morals. Many of our young people are not bad people, and certainly people who don't go to church are not evil in and of itself. But to delude themselves into thinking they're, beyond the belief in God and somehow much better for it, is belied by the fact that oftentimes the same people will make comments when they see someone perhaps who did something wrong and then immediately gets arrested for it, and they say, "There's karma for you," and as if that's not a belief in the supernatural power outside of yourself. I don't know much about karma. I think it's from the some Indian tradition of the subcontinent, but it's certainly something beyond what we can see and experience, and they're not beyond a belief in something outside yourself. It's also a generation that's obsessed with superheroes and magic and stories of powers beyond belief that some sort of cosmic force from Star Wars or something is at power. I think people are always people of faith in some way. It's just that they see it differently or they understand it differently. In our first reading today, we have Isaiah, and he speaks of a vision he has of the wolf lying down with the lamb, or being the guest of the lamb, the cow and the bear being neighbors. Anyone would scoff at that and saying, well, that's ridiculous. That's not how those animals act. If you're looking forward to a time when lambs and cows and bears and wolves were friends, you're deluding yourself, and you live in a world of imagination. Yet Isaiah's prayer that the offspring of Jesse, who was the father of David, who was the king of Israel in the days of old, his prayer that the root of Jesse would come back and restore order, and somehow after decades of suffering and exile, that their lives would be improved and that God would restore them to some glory and happiness seems no less believable than putting stones in your room to increase your chakra or those other sort of silly things that we have, that people believe. Horoscopes. Friends who always want to know your horoscope because they think they know something about you. I think that probability is far less interesting than believing, hoping, wishing to experience a God who loves us and who calls us to follow him. Because our God is a God of goodness, truth, love, forgiveness, resurrection. None of these things are improbable. They just take a lot of work to love, to forgive. It's not improbable, it's not incredible, it's not even superstitious to believe that this world is not all that there is, and that the God who created it, because clearly we did not create it ourselves, that the God who created it exists and endures beyond what we can see, feel, and touch. That Isaiah's vision is not Pollyannish, is not foolish, but instead is saying, what we know about the world is that there is suffering, and we have experienced it for decades in exile. But we also believe that the world makes sense and that there must be a God who brings completion and brings satisfaction out of all that we see. The world still has beauty, even in exile. We can still experience mercy and compassion through suffering. That despite the existence of evil and the terrible effects of war and greed and lust and power, of mass shootings and killings, that even in a world where all those things seem to be commonplace, we can still experience the power of love in our daily lives and hope and believe that there's a God behind that. This is far more real than karma or horoscopes or superheroes. This is reality, that goodness is true, that there is a God because there is love. Advent reminds us that we yearn for that. We yearn for that day, whether it comes in our lifetime or not, but that day when all will be revealed and the veil will come down and we'll see reality as it is, and it won't be superstitious. It will be the presence of God. Advent tells us God came once and became incarnate. And we who still cling to that memory and that believe he'll come again.